Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad Free Shows Network Podcast Heat and Wrestling According to Alba.com, where you get most Matt Hardy tapings live in your inbox as they happen. I'm John Alba, that guy doing all the crazy, insane hand motions. That's the broken one, the vocal one, the spoken one himself. Another episode of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. It is the star of the show, Mr. Matt Hardy. What's cooking, good looking?
Well, hell, what's going on, Mr. John Alba? How are you today? Everything is good, man. I am here. I officially have an 8-year-old in Woofy, and Maxwell in just a few days, like day 3 after this drops, will be 10. He'll be my first kid in double digits, which is wild. And we've been thinking about that a lot. And obviously, got a big week coming up, heading out to TNA. Tomorrow night. We are taping this Wednesday morning for full transparency. But I will be leaving Thursday night, and we're going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for anyone who wants to come out. 2 big shows. We're going to be taping episodes of Impact on Friday and Saturday, and all the stars are going to be there. And of course, myself and Jeff, we will be doing late night meet and greets till early in the morning, I am sure, every single night. And we take great pride in that, and we hope to see you there.
Nothing different in Hardyland, it would appear. The same old, but that's cool about wolfing, man. It's wild. Time flies.
Time does fly. I mean, it still feels like yesterday. It's funny. They just changed up their room a little bit. The Minecraft room, which is like Maxwell and Whoopi's room. And it just seems like yesterday when Maxwell was a little baby and I was holding him in my arms, rocking him, and I just had to carry him everywhere. And he actually did this where he came and he crawled into bed with me this morning, which is funny. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I just feel a little more sleepy. Can I just lay down with you for a little bit?" And he like kind of cuddled up, which was real cute. But I know I don't have too many of those days left, so no. I cherish every moment I have like that.
You certainly don't have too many of those left, and it's appropriate because King Maxwell 9 years ago was an infant, and he was a critical part of the Final Deletion lore, and we are going to be, for the first time on this podcast, watching the Final Deletion in full, because it was 9 years ago this week that you guys had it. We covered the Final Deletion in our Becoming Broken series, and we did a live show too. But we haven't actually sat down and watched the match together. So we're going to be doing that on this episode of The Extreme Life, and I'm very, very excited to do that because it's so ingrained in everything that this podcast is about, in your history. But yeah, man, that's great to hear. Things are good. Things are good here too. I'm buzzing because we got the trailer for the Springsteen biopic this morning as we record this. So
I haven't watched it. I did see that. I saw that was out.
Whew. Yeah, I'm a big Jeremy Allen White guy. I like it. I loved him in the Iron Claw. I thought he was awesome as Carrie.
Yeah,
he was great. Claw. Needed maybe 5 more inches on him, but aside from that, he was pretty fantastic in that movie. And the way that he captures Bruce's voice in this is unbelievable, and you got to check out that trailer. Very excited for that one. And yeah, man, all else is good on this end. You see I'm rocking my Kowloon shirt here because you and I, brother Nero, Jerry, we're gonna be headed to Kowloon.
Count down
August 9th in Cowtown, as you said. We are, or August 10th rather. August 9th we're gonna be at Limitless Wrestling. August 10th we're gonna be at Kowloon, where you're going to be meeting, greeting, and deleting all the Kowloon VIPs, followed by a live Extreme Life of Matt Hardy stage show, and then a Brother Nero acoustic concert. This might be our biggest live show of the year, and we're bringing it to Beantown. Very excited for this one, man. You got a lot of good Boston wrestling memories, don't you?
Yeah, man. I love Boston. Boston's a great city. A lot of fond memories in Boston. I've had a lot of good times in Boston. I've had a lot of great times at Kowloon. So I'm really excited to be back there, and especially doing a live television taping of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. It's going to be a blast.
I went to Chinatown this weekend here in New York City, and it was great. I ate at the iconic Wo Hop and all that. I'm telling you guys, Kowloon's food measures up to Chinatown food. Like, that's how good Kowloon is, and they feed you to the gills. So you want to make sure that you attend this show. Tickets are available. Hardy Boyz Live, HARDYBOYZ live.com. You can get your VIPs right now. There are limited GA tickets available that do not include the meet, greet, and delete. But look, how often do the Hardy Boys make their way through New England 2 days in a row. You got 2 chances if you're in New England to meet the Hardys. You can go meet them in Lewiston, Maine, just before the historic show at the Lewiston Coliseum for Limitless Wrestling, or you head on over to this fantastic Kowloon show we're going to be doing, and you get a chance to meet them there. Very limited experience. Tickets are limited for both of those events. So you need to make sure that if you want to meet the Hardys, you go do this, because there's not going to be walk-up opportunities for this in all likelihood. It is going to sell out both of them. So go make sure you purchase your tickets there. LimitlessWrestling.com, HardyBoysLive.com. 2 great events coming to you in New England. Cannot wait for that weekend, Matt.
And it's one of those things that I just wanted to point out, like, you know, as we are on the back end of our career, I mean, you never know how much longer we're going to be doing these. So I think that makes these events even more important. If we're having a big event, especially this big event that we're having at Kowloon, you know, where we are doing a meet, greet, delete, we're doing an Extreme Life with Matt Hardy, Jeff's doing a concert, it's definitely one you want to catch. You know, who knows how much longer we're going to be doing this. We're hoping we would do it forever, but realistically, who knows? We're on the back end of our career, so each one of these is extremely special. Make sure you get out and you catch Matt and Jeff Hardy.
Oh, man, I was talking to the promoter for Limitless, Randy, the other day about booking your airline tickets. And I said, whatever you do, make sure Glenn Jacobs isn't on the same flight as them. That's going to cause some problems. You don't want to end up in wrestling sport. You don't want to.
Well, hell.
That would be a tapestry and a half.
That would be a tapestry.
Hey, let me ask you about this real quick. Speaking of tapestry, your boy JBL, who's taken over the Something to Wrestle podcast that Bruce Pritchard had going, he had a comment the other night on his show where he said he thinks it might be worth it for WWE to run with R-Truth, Ron Killings, and give him a world title shot and give him a run as world champion. He thinks he's over enough to do it. He's got the equity, and the fans are behind him, so strike while the iron's hot. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm not opposed to radical ideas. You know, I'm the man who did Broken Matt Hardy, you know, as I like to put everything in context. You know, it's one of those, I mean, Truth really just saw such an outpouring, such a groundswell of WWE fan base support, right? And he is probably the most over he's been in his career. Everything he touches is white hot right now. So I am not opposed to it. You know, it's one of those things where they realistically might make it work, even if it was a short-term thing. But with that same thing being said, I know they have great plans and they want to plan for the future as well. And that also is very important. But you never know. This thing could be snuck in there and it could happen. But when it's all said and done, I think at the end of the day, how much the crowd is emotionally invested in a character is the most important barometer of the levels that someone reaches.
That's fair. That's all very fair. Because I'm a big fan of capitalizing on the moment, and I do think oftentimes wrestling is too afraid to capitalize on the moment, right? Because they're worried that it's going to shove plans out of the way, and that's fair. WWE is building towards big things right now, but there's no arguing that if there was ever a time to make R-Truth your world champion, now's probably the time at 53 years old, which is absolutely crazy to think about. But there's a real, true, fair argument to be made about it. On the WWE front, speaking of world champions, Gunther's the world champion. Goldberg's going to be facing him at Saturday night's main event. It might be Goldberg's last match ever. It's going to be going down in Atlanta it would be July 12th. So it's potentially, if they were to open Saturday night's main event with it, I don't think they're gonna, but if they were going to, it could go head to head with the main event of All In, which is a whole nother story. But what a
coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence, right? What do you think about the idea of Bill having his last match here potentially in Atlanta against Gunther? Does that excite you in any way? Maybe for the world title? Well, it is for the world title. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I honestly think it would be a huge deal for Gunther. It'd be a huge notch in his belt if he actually beat Goldberg pretty strongly in Goldberg's final match. I think that'd be quite the statement, and it would put a lot of equity into Gunther. So I'm not mad at that.
Do you think there's much interest in seeing Goldberg in a world title feud in 2025? Because there's been a lot of discourse about it, so I got to ask you about it.
Oh, I mean, there will be by casuals. I know you think that's a mysterious term or whatever. Just people who've just watched wrestling, here and there over the years. If their favorite's on, they'll tune in or whatever else, or they don't put too much thought into it. They don't give a shit what happens backstage. They don't give a shit what happens in personal lives or whatnot. Those people will be excited. Oh, Goldberg. Oh, he's still doing it. That's cool. He's wrestling the champion. Damn, I'd like to see him win the belt one more time, with that kind of mentality. I think it'll bring some general eyeballs to the screen.
Hey, the crowd went nuts for his music when he showed up. So if there's some sort of barometer there for how they're going to react, I guess it's there.
Just once again, like I was saying before, I mean, they are people in general. The diehards are not. They don't give a shit about him. But the general population of wrestling fans, especially the ones who grew up on Goldberg, they are emotionally invested in him. So that they're always excited to see an appearance. That's why they react like that. It's nostalgia. It takes them back to a time when they were young and they probably felt their life was better or whatever else. But they do. They're emotionally invested in him because there was a point in time where most people looked at Goldberg and thought he was like the baddest motherfucker on the planet.
He was a huge star, man. He was a huge star.
No doubt. One of the biggest stars of all time in pro wrestling.
Yeah, no, he was. It's hard to contextualize for a modern wrestling fan if they weren't watching during the Monday Night Wars, but Goldberg was like torchbearer at one point for WCW alongside Sting. So I would argue there was probably a 2-year period where the hottest match that could have happened was probably Steve Austin versus Goldberg. Would you agree with that?
Yes, no doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, never happened, obviously, but it was probably the hottest match that could have happened at one point. And how you would have booked that, I'm not sure, but it would have been something. It's a match.
I mean, it would have been a dream match that would have done a huge gate. It would have done huge revenue. It had so many eyeballs on it. I mean, it would have been as big of a match as you could promote at that time. It would be reminiscent of doing a Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin match, if they were, both in a prime set. But if those guys were both like in a prime set and they could both really go when they were at the height of their stardom, it would be a huge match.
They could have done Hogan and Austin at Mania 18 and they chose not to. So it was interesting they didn't. I'm fairly certain the lore is that they tried to get Goldberg for that show and he was not interested. He wanted to ride out his deal, which made sense at the time. But yeah, pretty interesting what could have been. I'm sure Vince would have loved to have had that match. Speaking of Vince.
Bill, well, I was just going to say, speaking of Bill too, speaking of Bill, he's a business guy. He was going to take that large paycheck that was it was guaranteed money. He wasn't going to deny that, no doubt. He's a smart guy when it comes to business.
Very smart guy when it comes to business. Absolutely, very smart guy. But regarding Vince, there was a report that came out this week that he tried to buy the bare knuckle fighting championship league. That he was turned down for that. But I believe it was Justin Barrasso from the Undisputed who essentially said that promoters and people in the entertainment industry believe that Vince is trying to get back into pro wrestling. Shane was asked about that by TMZ a week or two ago, and he said he wasn't aware of any plans of sorts like that. But what's your gut feeling on that, man? Do you see that as something that could have some Matt fact to it or potentially Matt fiction? And just how does it make you feel in general?
I think there could be some Matt fact to that. I mean, I feel like Vince, I mean, all his life, he has known entertainment. He has known pro wrestling. He has wanted to be a promoter, and he became the greatest promoter in the entire industry. He became the greatest promoter ever known to pro wrestling in general. So, I mean, it's in his blood. And I know he is probably frustrated with some of the things, that have gone down. Obviously, a lot of it is of his own doing. It's some of the stuff that he's obviously gotten himself into. So, he's got things on different fronts, especially he's dealing with legal things. And I know those are very controversial, but I can understand why he would want to be back in the limelight. He would want to be back in the captain's chair, trying to run a show or promote it. And do I think it's something that is possible or feasible? I think it's something he would attempt to do. Will it happen? Will it come to fruition? I don't know, but I do see this as being something potentially he wants to do. I think it's something he kind of yearns to do in all reality, John.
How do you feel about it as a former performer under him?
I mean, what happens is what happens. First and foremost, I think he's got to just deal with these legal issues he has. he has to get this addressed, and then just depending on how those turn out, I mean, that makes all the difference in the world, you know. So I understand his desire to get back into wrestling, to get back into, you know, into the driver's seat, you know, because he got off he got off in being in the driver's seat, and I'm sure he wants to do that again. It's just all he knows in his life. It's all he's ever done. I'm sure that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
How do I feel about it? I don't know. There are so many variables in this Vince McMahon equation. It really depends on how everything plays out over the next year, couple years, whatever, to see if it ends up being something that is a feasible possibility.
Yeah, I mean, they got that. They have the Ring Boy scandal still going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's got. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of varying factors that are going to determine if this happens or not.
Certainly so. I know that you want to hit on the NXT show real quick that happened this past week. As we record this, they're putting Blake Monroe, Mariah May in a pretty big spot right away, and there was a good amount of TNA talent on this week's episode as well.
Yeah, I thought the Mariah May debut was done really well. Monroe Blake is going to be very
Blake Monroe.
Blake Monroe. Yes. Oh, that's right. Of course, it's like Marilyn Monroe. Blake Monroe. What am I saying? Blake Monroe is going to be, I mean, she'll kind of forever be Mariah May, I think. But Blake Monroe, I thought they did a really good job at presenting her as a star. She seemed like a big deal when she came out. And I like the deal that they immediately signed her. They had the champ come out and confront her. So they've already have started the building blocks for putting her in a match for the NXT title. And I think she's going to do very well there. I think they're going to introduce her to all of the NXT audience, which in return kind of equates to the WWE audience and their fan base. And I think you will see her do very well in NXT, and then you will see her be called up before too long.
Yeah, she needs to be a star there. But some of the TNA talent, you had a note about Casey Navarro there.
Yes. So I was really curious about the match. So the match aired last Thursday on Impact, and it was myself and Jeff versus First Class, which is AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. And we were doing the match, and there was a point where Casey Navarro dove out of the ring on the jab, but then when he landed very awkwardly on his knee, and something happened to his knee. And they weren't sure if his knee was blown out or his kneecap had popped, whatever. He did get hurt on it. And they ended up keeping him out the remainder of the match, the doctor, the medical staff. And it was a good call, but it was one of those things that was really interesting because the whole back end of the match was probably going to be KC, and myself and Jeff and mainly me and KC, I think, doing some stuff there. And, my job after doing this 33 years, I should be able to get in that ring and I should be able to lead the ship. Right. And I know as we did that, I just said, I told the rep, I said, just when AJ comes in, just tell him to swing and I'll do the rest. Just listen. And we ended up doing things as is. Everything went off without a hitch, and we got right back on track. And that's something I take a lot of pride in being able to make things work, especially when you have these, freak scenarios, like someone gets hurt and everything has to change, right? You have to change things on the fly. You have to sit in the corner and you have to think for a few seconds. How can I correct this now that we can't do what we had kind of initially thought we were going to be doing in the beginning? And that's part of the art of pro wrestling, I think. I also take a lot of pride, and I think this has worked to a degree, when myself and Jeff, when we came out and we did the Hardy Compound confrontation with the Nemeth brothers, myself and Jeff, our mission was to get Ryan Nemeth over, make him credible, make people hate him, make him a heel in whatever way, and those guys ended up winning the titles for us. And I feel like we've done pretty good because those guys have been getting major heat where they've gone, because Ryan was a hard one because his brother Nick obviously was so much far ahead, so much further ahead of him. And he was a legit star already, and he'd been established a star for 20 years. Right. So, the fact that we were able to elevate Nick is something that, once again, myself and Jeff take a lot of pride in, because, the fact that we're able to elevate Ryan and make him look credible to a degree, which he still isn't anywhere near the level of Nick when it's all said and done. But once again, we were trying to give him equity, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job in doing that.
Put someone with Dr. Wolfie, that's what's going to happen, man.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Wolfie as well. He got the Wolfie rub.
He certainly did get the Wolfie rub. Anything else cross your radar this week before we move on into things?
Trying to think. Just want to say for anybody in New York, myself and Jeff, we're going to be actually in New York next week. We're going to be promoting the big Slammiversary show coming up. We're going to be there
news to me. I had no idea you were coming.
Yeah, well, believe me, it was new to me too. We're going to be doing media Tuesday through Thursday. So I'll go to TNA Friday, Saturday.
SNY? Am I going to be interviewing you on SNY?
Who knows? Maybe so. Maybe that's something we can arrange that if we talk to the brain master Ross. And then Sunday morning I'll be flying back. It's Maxwell and Wolfie's mega party, and then actual Monday is Maxwell's birthday, and then Tuesday morning I'll be heading up to New York. We're there through Thursday, and then Friday morning we're flying over to Buffalo for the Nickel City Comic-Con, and we'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we got a big week coming up. Hey, John, I just wanted to compliment you on doing some really good work recently, and it's a story that really hadn't broke at all. And there was an interesting thing that came out just recently. I'll let you go into it a little more because it is obviously your story that you kind of broke, and it's the whole thing with Chris Dispenza and AEW. There was an incident where John Moxley had pushed him over. And it had a lot of people talking this week, right? There was a Sports Illustrated story you put out. Yeah,
it did have a lot of people talking. There's a lawsuit from Chris Dispenza, who is a longtime wrestling production crew guy, and a Dynamite in 2023. John Moxley was allegedly, per the lawsuit, supposed to grab a screwdriver from him, and that was it. But as it happened on the episode, and you can see the video of it, he ended up pushing over Dispenza, and Chris claimed injuries, and now is filing a civil suit against AEW and Moxley for negligence, civil assault, and battery. It's a very complicated situation. I highly encourage you to read through the whole article. I spoke to his law team. I spoke to some AEW sources. There were some pretty heavy things leveraged against Moxley in the lawsuit, so it's worth checking out. But I guess what I'll ask you on it is that line of involving non-wrestlers in spots, and like what's your general approach to stuff like that? Because here's a case where someone who was an untrained wrestler, according to his lawsuit, took an unplanned fall, and it resulted in injury per these allegations. So what's your approach to stuff like that?
I mean, I'll tell you what my rules are. I mean, you don't do anything with a civilian, someone who is an untrained performer, unless they absolutely know what they're going to do and they're prepared for it. I mean, you can't take that risk in this day and age in 2025, right? Even though that was 2023, you just can't do it. Everyone out there, especially if there's someone that is not a trained pro wrestler or a trained performer in some capacity, you can't do anything physical with them if they aren't aware of it, if they don't know what's happening, because they're not ready for it. They're not trained. They're not ready to break falls. They're not ready to be shoved. They're not ready to do anything physical. They are not prepared for it. So you can't do that. It's one of the things too. You have to be very careful if you're ever out by the crowd or in the crowd. You can't hit those people. You can't touch those people. You can't interact with them at all. You can't physically do anything, especially in this day and age with lawsuits and civil suits and everything else. You just can't. You have to protect yourself out there, and that's how you protect yourself, by being disciplined and you don't lay hands on people.
Any thoughts on all the Moxley as part of things? It was leveraged against him in the suit that he had like a history of being reckless and things of that nature. I mean, you know John pretty well from your years of working with him. Anything you'd like to say about him?
No, I mean, John's a good dude. John is very professional. John still in many ways feels like the heart and soul of AEW.
Agreed.
I have a ton of respect for John. I can see him just being present in the moment. Hi, Maxwell. All good. I can see him being present in the moment, and just kind of doing it. And it was like an instinctual thing, but it's just one of those deals. You can't really do that. You especially if someone's not prepared for it. If he'd said, hey, if I'm going to grab something for you and I'm going to shove you, so be ready for it, it's a different story. But if it just comes without any knowledge, then It's something you really can't
Sure.
do, because it's just it puts a civilian in a dangerous scenario.
Yeah, again, these are all allegations, and it's all pending. I did
Yeah,
talk to multiple high-level AEW sources.
yeah.
I put this in the piece where they spoke very highly of John and felt that the characterization of him in the lawsuit was unfair. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one ultimately plays out.
Mhm.
I mean, I can even tell you when we filmed that video with Guga, who, civilian, right? And you were going
Yeah,
to put him through a table. You must have asked him like 20 times, like, are you sure you want to do this? And making sure that he was consenting to this, because it
yeah,
is dangerous when
yeah.
all is said
And,
and
and
done.
and also, I kept going over it with him over and over
Mhm.
again, just to make sure he would be as prepared as possible.
And he
This
still
is
got
when we,
color.
yeah, yeah, and that was just one of those things that happened. With John, you said a lot of people highly respect him. I highly respect John Moxley, and I hope everything works out for the best when it's all said and done. And if there were injuries, Chris Dispenza is someone else. I have a lot of respect for him as well. He did a lot of work here at the Hardy compound when we were doing the original deletion run with Broken Matt Hardy and the Broken Universe and Brother Nero. So he did a lot of respect here. He did a lot here. So I have a lot of respect for him. I hope at the end of the day, maybe cooler heads can prevail, and maybe if he had surgeries he paid for, or whatever the issues are. I know you've talked about all these things. People should check out your article on Sports Illustrated if they haven't yet. And I hope they can just like settle all this, and maybe they can take care of them, and everybody can kind of leave on a happy note.
Yeah, we'll find out what happens. Again, it's a very murky, weird situation, just because there are so many allegations in the lawsuit, and some of which that I think could potentially hold up in court, and others that may not. And usually, when
Right.
you have situations like that, you end up leaning towards one solution. So we'll see what ends up coming from that for sure. All right, my friend, we have a final deletion to talk about, but before we can, you know what I got to ask? Please hit us with that Matt fact.
Matt fact: Matt's hips are anatomically wider than normal,
Thus resulting in the Jimmy legs.
thus resulting in the Jimmy legs. So whenever I was just thinking about this, because I was telling the story to somebody the other day, because they'd asked me about this. And whenever I was having my big back issues after, doing leg drops at this point for 15 years, probably, whenever I was in WWE 07, 08. And, I dropped it to the second rope. And that was the featured leg drop as opposed to coming off the top. And then eventually I just I cut it out completely. I did the hoe and dropped the elbow to the back of the neck, the most exciting yet boring high flying move in the history of wrestling. And my legs and my lower back, whenever I was getting examined for it, when Johnny said, "Oh, I need to keep you on the road," John Laurinaitis says, "I need to keep you on the road. I can trust you. You can work with someone small. You can work with a big guy, and you'll take care of them. You won't take advantage of them. I need you on the road. I need you on the road." He said, "Go to the doctor, see what they say." So when I was there, and they talked about the issues I had and all the scar tissue, so they X-rayed me and my back, and he said, "Oh," he said, "your pelvis." He said, "Like usually where the bones are, they're like this, but yours is wider." He said, "And your pelvis, you were born like anatomically with a wider pelvis. You had like a wider spread." And I've always had like a strange walk, like with the Jimmy legs, and people like think how did this guy get like this? Like I'm a mutant. I'm a half-assed mutant to a degree. So on top of having anatomically wider hip sockets than most people do, where most people's are here and then mine are out a little bit, then the scar tissue has just pushed it out even further. And that's kind of like what has exaggerated the Jimmy legs even further as I've gotten older, I think.
Broken Matt is truly broken.
Broken Matt is truly broken, no doubt. I'm
It
often
is.
broken all over the place. You just never see it. I just seem like I put it together. I am coined Broken Matt Hardy. You just don't get to see it the majority of the time.
I think I have an idea of one area that you're not broken, though.
Yes, you do. And you know the reason why.
Because you're using Blue Chew all the time at the Hardy compound. There's no shortage of Blue Chew at the Hardy compound, because even in a small town like Cameron, North Carolina, you can get that access to Blue Chew, because Matt Hardy needs to be ready at all moments. So with the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, he wants to help you have better sex, and getting your first month of Blue Chew absolutely free. Great sex is just a few clicks away, gents. Sign up, BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you're going to receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Matt, as we get older, sometimes we enter a great war with our hormones and our body. But Blue Chew is a way to make sure you end up finishing on top.
You're right. Sometimes we do enter a great war. And you are right. I am ready to rise and stand up at any occasion. Thanks, Blue Chew.
Because this truly is the final deletion with Blue Chew. You can delete all your dick problems by popping a Blue Chew. Make your life easier by getting harder. And discover your options at BlueChew.com. We got a special deal for our listeners here. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Hardy. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Hardy, Hardy. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy.
Why, thank you.
So talking about the Final Deletion.
That's it. Maxwell, come in here. Maxwell, come in here real quick.
Oh boy, we're not asking Maxwell about
nice
that,
hat.
are we?
Nice hat you're wearing. Maxwell, do you remember doing the Final Deletion?
No, not really.
Say it loud.
No, not really.
Do you have any memories of it when you have watched it? You've seen it back?
I don't know.
Do you know we really set up the beginning of the Final Deletion and how your first birthday, it was your first birthday party. It was out in the building, everything that we used on the Final Deletion was actually the set of your true birthday, because they kind of coordinated with one another whenever we were taping them. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it crazy that you wrestled in different matches and you're still undefeated?
Yeah.
Now maybe you'll be able to half-ass be able to wrestle for real, as opposed to just being the greatest soul in all of space and time. All right. Well, I like your hat. All right, go about your way. So we're getting ready to talk about the Final Deletion.
So does it blow your mind that this is 9 years ago this week?
Yes, it is crazy. It is crazy for sure. Oh, watch out, baby. Sorry. All right. And there we go. Kids running in. Yes, it does. It is. It's crazy that it has been 9 years ago since that happened. It's wild.
We're going to watch the match in full and we're going to break it down. Again, you've broken the match down pretty extensively already without watching it in our archives, which you can find extremehardy.com, the Becoming Broken series. Great episode that we taped
great
in the hotel room. But it's a transcendent match for wrestling. It's one of the most important matches of the last decade for what it would lay the groundwork for. Without watching it first, because we will watch it, but without watching it, how do you feel it holds up in 2025?
I think it still holds up, just because I think when we first did it, a lot of people didn't get the vibe of what they weren't picking up what we were putting down with the Broken Universe. It was meant to tell a story and have a couple serious moments, but overall we were trying to tell a story in a different way, and we were trying to have fun with it. We were trying to make it campy. We were trying to make it a little different, cheesy in some ways. And it really, people bought into the magic of the Hardy compound, and the Hardy compound became one of the biggest characters in all of the Broken Universe, and it still is to this day. You know, one thing I can say that is really unique. People love the Lake of Reincarnation. That's one of their favorite things, because they want to see someone come in and come out as one of their former gimmicks, one of their past gimmicks. Whenever we did that the very first time, that was not our intent. We were just saying, because Jeff would do Jeff and he would transform to Willow, and he'd done Willow and got it established on TNA TV. We just were going like, oh, Jeff was down, but then all of a sudden he pops out as Willow. It's going to be a cool moment. And that is the moment. After that moment got such a great reaction and it gained so much traction, we're like, wow, maybe we should make this that you dunk somebody in and they can kind of come out as a different character of theirs, a different persona, and it paid off in spades.
It certainly did pay off in spades. It's, again, as I said, one of the most memorable matches of the last decade. What do you think the Final Deletion specifically did for your career?
I think for my career personally, it it was me reinventing myself in the greatest reinvention I've ever done. And it was something that was so out of the box, something so drastically different, just totally went as far as I could possibly go away from what Matt Hardy of the Hardy Boys was and is. And for a moment there was a time where, you know, we've always said this, and I always say this, Jeff, obviously more historically popular. Jeff's one of the most popular performers in the history of pro wrestling. I've still always been very popular behind him as Matt Hardy. You know, I did appearances this weekend. They were sold out. They were packed from beginning to end, whatever. Really, really strong. And I still do well on my own, but Jeff is just still another level. But for one of the first times, with the exception of probably Matt Hardy V1, where I'd got over and people were really into me this time. I mean, like, Matt was hotter than Jeff was for the longest time, which was very unique. And it's cool because Jeff played perfectly as Brother Nero, especially once he lost the Final Deletion and he had to be, you know, he had to second me, and I owned his brand, I owned his property, I owned everything Hardy related, and he played that role perfectly. And then eventually we got back together, and we knew we were going to get back together, either as baby faces or heels, and we hoped baby faces, and fortunately it ended up working as baby faces, especially with the help of Decay at that time. So it was a point in time where a lot of people that were like those diehard Matt fans that like, God, I love Matt. I wish he would get more flowers. I wish he'd get more props. They were really riding high at that time. And that's something that was very cool for me.
Yeah. Again, as we've talked about on this podcast, I did not understand Broken Matt Hardy at first. And I really struggled.
I totally get that. It makes sense. I mean, I know how you view wrestling. I know how you perceive it. And I totally get that.
Yeah. But look, I mean, I love great characters in wrestling. And I do love, and I said this a few weeks ago on the podcast, I seldom think that humor and comedy are done well in wrestling. I think a lot of times it's very forced. But when I started to catch on to what Broken Matt Hardy was, and you as a performer had full self-awareness, but the character completely lacked any self-awareness. Very similar to V1 in a very different way, almost.
It really was. I mean, those characters are a lot more similar than I think people would ever imagine, because I feel like I am sometimes at my best when I'm playing a larger than life delusional character, because I understand like where the audience, they're like, well, he thinks this of himself. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go there. You know what I mean? And I felt like I was able to do that with both those characters. Those characters are much more closely associated than most people would think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you even did it during your Ring of Honor run too, where people were like, oh, this freaking guy coming in, trying to ride his WWE pedigree. And you lean into that. You're like, yeah, I'm the big star.
Yeah.
And that's good. Like I stand by it. I think the best characters in wrestling are the ones who lean into the public discourse to a pretty exaggerated point. And yeah, there are some exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, I think it almost always works. And it worked here with Broken Matt Hardy in a very unique way that had never really been done in pro wrestling before. So I don't want to spend too much time recapping, you know, how we got here, because we covered it so at length, but describe to me, I guess, once you shoot this thing here, the anticipation leading up to this. You had a feeling that you had something special, but you were also worried that it might not make the air.
Yes, we did. There was a lot of people that were unsure. John Gabrick was, Dixie Carter was. They didn't know like how. They're like, can we put this on there? We have guys shooting fireworks at one another. You know, they're doing a lot of crazy things. This is like crazy content. Can we put this on a program? Is it going to be received in the correct way? Which was really interesting.
You also had the WWE screenings going on of this, correct?
We did, yeah. The WWE screens were going crazy, yeah.
And that
they were in Japan, and they were watching everything.
That added further intrigue.
It did, yeah.
Rebecca, I see you back there. Hello, Rebecca.
Happy Pride, guys.
Happy Pride indeed.
Post about it.
Did you have, Rebby, did you have anxiety about the Final Deletion airing?
Which one is that? The first one?
The first one.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't think people would get it, for sure. It was like a very out there thing. And cinematic matches weren't trendy yet. So, you know, never know how it's going to work out. But it didn't matter anyway because we were setting a new precedent.
I found it.
That's right, and that's pretty much the whole point of, I think, the Final Deletion. Thank you, Rebecca. I think that's kind of the whole point of everything that you guys were doing here. So, how about we watch it back? You ready to do this for the first
I would
time?
love to. Yes. Yes.
Okay, my friend. When's the last time you watched the Final Deletion?
It's been maybe a year ago. I think I watched it with Maxwell and Wolfie.
Okay. Let's watch it. Let's check out how this holds up here 9 years later. And if there's anything that you come across that you're like, I wish we did that differently, or anything of that nature, let me know. Yeah. And I'll stop the video too. If you want me to pause at any point, let me know too.
Okay.
We'll pause and we'll talk about something. For those of you who want to watch this with us, just go on TNA's YouTube page. They have the full Final Deletion posted. And that's the video source we're using for this. So, all right, let's do this here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin. And we have the, I'm popping already, Impact moves to Thursdays on Pop TV, July 21st.
Yes, this was Maxwell's real birthday setup.
Okay.
And we just had another cake for him. Because we had done his party. We filmed this and then we did his party a couple days later.
Okay. Senor Benjamin doesn't age, man.
Yeah, he looks the same, right?
And of course, Queen Rebecca looks even better today. Come on, bro. You got to get on this train.
Yes, of course. Look at little King Maxwell. He has aged today.
He has.
Or 10 years worth.
Why was this an essential scene to have in the show?
This was Maxwell was my motivation for this. You know what I mean? I mean, I wanted to secure the Hardy Empire and the Hardy name and make sure all is right for my son, so he could go on and he could carry it on whenever, you know, my vessel has perished and my essence goes to another one. So I wanted to leave it to Maxwell Hardy. And this is also a theme. You see the candle she's lighting right there. It actually comes back at the very end whenever that comes around full circle. So this was me showing the importance of my family, showing the importance of King Maxwell and why I needed to delete the notorious and nefarious Brother Nero, because he is the only one blocking. He's the one blocking King Maxwell from becoming the dominant Hardy, the heir to the Hardy Empire.
Are there any Easter eggs here?
I am sure there are. A lot of this stuff was just, we were kind of we were doing things on the fly. We only had like 15 hours to shoot this whole deal, so we knocked out everything pretty quick. We were burning through it. This was a very, very long work day. By the time we got in and set everything up, we were busting our ass to get everything done, because we only had a four-person production crew doing it too.
Did you have it storyboarded?
No, we had a rough outline. We had a rough outline of what we wanted to do, and then we kind of filled in the blanks as we were going.
Okay.
So once again, we learned a lot here. You know, this is obviously something that was done in post. And once again, huge hats off to Jeremy Borash and also Jimmy. Those guys were incredible. They were so good at what they did. Jeremy Borash was so locked in with the whole theme of the Broken Universe as well. He had great ideas always.
JB got a lot of love for the Worlds Collide show too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw he was all in on it.
We got a myriad of drones here in Jeff's house. How'd Jeff feel about smashing drones in his house?
He was okay with it. But he was. I mean, these were old drones that JB had that weren't any good, and Jeff legit, everyone that you saw him hit, that's what he did. He had those drones up and he hit them, and then it was edited together. So that was amazing. Jeff's
wife okay with the house having some splintered drones?
I probably not, but okay. I suppose she had to be okay. Me doing that this thing, that was the last thing we shot, the green screen of this, as I shot the hologram image coming out of Bangor 1. That was the last shot that we did. That was at like 6:30 a.m. in the morning when the sun was up.
Okay, so you just had Jeff just stand there as if he was listening to something.
Yes.
Okay. Was Jeff ready for a character change here?
I mean, I think he was cool with doing it. I don't think he understood where this was going to go though. And I think once he started doing Brother Nero, he like, at first he was like unsure, but then he really got into it as time went on, you know, because he started like doing, you know, the contacts and specialized paint and everything else. Like he really got into it and he really dug it.
What was the Big Bang? It's a classic Matt Hardy moment here.
Yeah, and this once again, and we had to do this a couple times because Jeff's grass had been freshly cut. It was almost hard for me to get my blade low enough down to like actually make a difference in it. So a lot of it was kind of very, very worked. But it was one of those things where I feel like Jeff takes more pride in his yard than anything else he does. And I said, like, man, I feel like if I was going to do something just to like rub something in your face, I would like fuck up your yard because I know how much you care about that. I know how much work time you spend with that. And that ended up working. That became such a huge meme, as you know.
So you've told Senor Benjamin to prepare the battlefield.
Yes. And we've got him here preparing the battlefield, bringing out fireworks. Once again, that's a little precursor to what we're going to be doing a little later when we're firing fireworks at one another.
Well, it's a MacGuffin, right? Like if you're showing it, it's got to get used.
Sure. Yeah. It's like if you bring out a table in a wrestling match, you better use that son of a bitch.
And you're giving your approval, lending him some gasoline.
Yes. I said, please pour gasoline all over the battlefield. Once again, kind of setting breadcrumbs for what is going to happen later in the final deletion as well. And also kind of establishing, because Senior Benjamin, when we did that contract signing, he was just such this very strange, mysterious character. And it was something that really, a lot of people were into him. A lot of people really want to see more of this mysterious guy. Who's this mysterious gardener? So we definitely wrote a character in on him, and he ended up getting over huge during this time. He was doing autograph signings, and people were coming out in droves to see him.
We have our referee coming out to the compound.
Yeah, I love the fact that Kevin Keenan, he comes out here and he is a normal human being living in this crazy broken universe. And he like his reaction getting out of the car and seeing the ring and the setup, and there's all these tiki torches out and just the insanity of it all. Like this ring is in the middle of a field and by the woods. Like, what is going on here?
Was there ever a thought of not having a referee for this?
No, I wanted the referee to feel very out of place and uncomfortable. Even when I was saying this stuff to him, I said, just there's one rule. I said, whatever happens, do not resuscitate Brother Nero. You know, once again, like I am trying to destroy him. And like, I think that stuff I said to him, he did not know what I was going to say. So I wanted to try and get a genuine reaction. I wanted him to feel like out of place and strange.
What time of the night is this when you're filming this?
This is probably... It's probably midnight-ish, I would guess. 11:30, midnight-ish. This was the first stuff we said. And there ended up being, you know, in the beginning as we're doing that, we only had 2 cameras on it. It was a 2-camera shoot. So we were doing a lot of changing lights and adjusting things just to try and get all of the correct angles and shots. And we had JB filming with the drone, which was great.
Well,
this famous, over-the-shoulder shot I love.
You have the car light there, too.
Yeah, and we did do that. We did that. That was an idea. We had to pull the cars out and put the headlights on the ring for extra light.
I like that we got these Pop TV promos in the middle of this video.
Yeah, and it ended up being very smart, just considering we were changing time slots and channels.
So is everything that we're going to see here shot sequentially?
Yes, everything here is shot sequentially. Yes.
Okay.
Everything in the match.
Has it always been that way for the other ones, or was it just for this one that you did that?
This one specifically. There's one thing that I was going to say. Something that wasn't shot sequentially was the lawnmower scene. After we finished, we did that the next morning. We did the lawnmower scene the next morning whenever I ran over those things, because that was the last thing we had to do. Like the stuff in the house with the drones, that was already shot. The lawnmower scene was like the last thing we did. Unfortunately, we were able to match that up. And then the final thing I did was go in Jeff's house in front of a green wall, and we did that hologram.
Now, you've said that the match starts as a more traditional wrestling match. Just like, what's the ideology? Is it just to make it feel a little more familiar at first?
Yeah, just I just thought like let's start normal, and then like let's start going nuts. Like let's put the broken universe twist on it. You know, let's put just different, out of the ordinary, out of the box. Let's put just stuff that is very just almost insanity. Let's put insanity into this match. So that was our mindset in doing this like that.
That may be the
that was a great shot with the flame right in front.
Yeah, that may be the earliest you've ever hit a twist of fate in a match.
It may very well be, yeah.
So did you guys like work a match out in your head here?
We had ideas. We had things we wanted to do. We wanted we knew we were going to do the fireworks. We knew Jeff wanted to jump out of the tree. He had already built that like a ladder up the tree, so we're going to do it. And then we just kind of worked around, and we figured out stuff to fill in time until we got into those big spots.
Did they cut a lot of the actual in-ring work you guys did together?
Not a bunch. They cut some. Some of it was cut just to kind of optimize the time, but not a ton of it. And also, we wanted to use this one big, weird, strange ladder that we had that Jeff was going to, break the ladder and put me through it. So we have all our toys there that we wanted to play with. And once again, like the little thing that we have that was like a little wall, like a little flowery wall that was out there, was just such a weird object too. And like we brought it there, and people still to this day go like, what was that? Just how we brought that thing out earlier and we used it, we broke it, we beat it up. Once again, we were just trying to do things so differently. So things that just were not normal, things that were bizarre. We were trying to be bizarre in this.
I think you accomplished that.
Yeah.
Swanton. Kick out.
And I think that the storytelling, once the match kind of ends in a no contest, and now it goes off to like, the pinfalls or, submissions, they count anywhere on the Hardy compound, it became a real interesting deal. And then like, I think it even became more bizarre then. I think that's what really caught people's attention more than anything else. I think the stuff we did outside of the ring is what was so unique.
Well, yeah, because if you're watching it to this point, you're thinking, oh, they're just going to have a weird match in a backyard in a ring.
Right.
But then you're going to expand the playing field.
And it's so funny how, considering how we get into the business and how we started as like backyard wrestlers, it's so funny that we like totally kind of went back to like what we're doing, wrestling in a backyard, more or less. It's very, very, very full circle.
No trampoline this time.
Yeah, no trampoline. And Jeff's up 20 feet in a tree. I thought Jeff might break my back in this thing.
He could break your back. He could break his back. I mean, that is a very dangerous.
Yeah, it was he did it perfectly though, and like we were both okay, which is amazing. But I was very concerned on that thing. I was like, oh, this ladder's still very strong. It's pretty stout. I said, if he like lands flush on me, Jesus Christ, because I was laying awkwardly on it. I was thinking that as he was jumping, I was like, this might be it. This might break my back.
And then everything goes out the window.
Yeah,
we're back up and.
Here we go. There's a chair underneath the ring. Very, very Hardy Boys, very TLC-ish, at least LC-ish, ladders and chairs.
Here we go. We got a Roman candle. Are you nervous about shooting fireworks off in the woods like that?
Where it was a field we were in where there wasn't any pond straw or anything, so it was pretty safe where we were doing it. And then when Jeff was shooting them the other way at me, it was like by the pond that we built for our dad, and that was all grass out there, so we were okay. We definitely did not want to shoot the fireworks into the woods where there was pond straw and it was dry.
Yeah, I can't say that's ever happened in wrestling history prior to this.
Right. And then this was just, such an odd looking, unique tool. I love this shot of where I'm looking through it and, I'm like going, it's over.
Call the Godfather because we got some hoes in the building.
Yeah, we do. And something that was so funny, which it really didn't lean into it. And I kind of just played this. I was like, What if I see your fireworks, Jeff, and I say like, "Oh shit," but I don't say it in the accent. Like, "Oh, is he putting on the accent or not?" Like, it was a good comedic moment.
Dilapidated boat.
It made me revert back to my my mortal vessel. Yes, the dilapidated boat, and it's crazy. Look, it's a dilapidated boat, and it's so crazy how over the dilapidated boat got.
Was that your dad's boat?
It was, yes.
Yeah. And into the lake we go.
Into the lake, and I think I choked him out and drowned him.
A very important question, though. If both of you go into the lake, why does only he come back reincarnated?
Because we hadn't created the lake of reincarnation at this time, John.
So the rules,
is the honest answer. Yeah.
So the rules of the broken universe have not been fully established to this point.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great question. Yes.
Okay, so there's Willow and there's Benjamin.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And this was one of my favorite scenes. This was my idea, and I love this so much that I was going to find Willow, you know, and then I was going to think that, you know, I had him defeated. And then when I do this, I was like, man, I loved when I was a kid. I loved the Scooby-Doo stuff when they pulled the mask off the villain, and they go, "Oh, they still would have gotten away with. Would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for this meddling kids." And this was my Scooby-Doo moment right here. So I pin Willow. And you think it's a false finish. Oh, I've won the Final Deletion. I take it off. Oh, my God. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling Jeff Hardy.
So now the result has been nullified.
The result has been nullified because it was not Jeff. It was not Brother Nero.
Now he is magically Jeff Hardy again.
Yes.
How long did it take for him to dig out this ditch?
Probably a day.
Does he have like a bobcat? And
he did it with a bobcat. He did it with machinery.
Okay. Wet, muddy. Is this like 4 a.m. or so around here?
Oh no, it's we're pushing it. It's like 5.
Oh wow.
5:30. The sun was about to come up. You can see by the time we do this shot, like we were getting tight, and we were getting tight on time.
Yeah, look at that. The sun's starting to come up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see how the sun's starting to peek out a little bit. So we were like rushing to get this done.
I actually don't hate that it's showing that you guys are fighting through the night.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do. I get that. And once again, here's the flashback to the birthday party with Maxwell and everything that happened. Jeff making me broken, the one. And this is like a real-time thing where she just gives me this. And Senior Benjamin has already put the gas down. He has totally put gas all over the compound. And I light him up and I get burnt. As a couple of the flames, just the
But what an amazing visual that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing visual.
It's like right out of episode 3 of Star Wars when like Anakin becomes Darth Vader and he gets burnt. It's like
Yeah, even I mean, all that visual. I mean, it was real. I mean, we weren't doing CGI here, you know. Like that was all real fire. Even like this last, and I remember like we were rushing, like quick, get hold the post, hold the post, hold the post. JB was like, hold the post, hold the post, hold the post, right here.
Meanwhile, you're like singed.
Yes, I am singed. I'm singed on my lat and the back of my shoulder, and I'm like, I'm going, Jesus Christ. And I still have more to do.
You certainly did. It was a hell of a showing there, Matt Hardy. So walk me through it, man. Is there anything that 9 years later you would change about how you went about it? Maybe the whole Lake of Reincarnation rules, just because they've been established since then?
Yeah, you know, we probably would have, if I had established the rules, if we had thought about it then, as opposed to like discovering something out of just something that happened organically, we probably would have changed that. I would have done it differently in some capacity. But no, there's not really a lot I would change. I guess the only thing I would change is probably have it structured better so we could shoot it easier. And that was just kind of learning on the fly. That was learning on the job, right? Because we were kind of making it up as we were going along. So that would be really the only thing I feel like I would change looking back in hindsight, because it was a moment that myself and Jeff and JB and Jimmy and Senior Benjamin and Rebecca and just everybody, we created a moment that was special. It was pure. It was genuine. It was authentic, and it wasn't perfect. But I don't think if we tried to do it over again, we couldn't have that same effect and that same magic that we had in that first, when we just captured so much magic in a bottle, during the Final Deletion. And I think that's what made it so special. It was rough around the edges. It wasn't super clean, but it was something where it had a lot of emotion involved into it. It had a lot of humor. It had a lot of, it felt great. And that's something that I don't think you can trade in when something just feels that good.
When you rapped, did it feel like you nailed it?
It felt like we had done some good stuff, but we had no idea. And I still feel like that whenever we do cinematic content, whenever we did it with the Nemeth brothers, whenever we did the stuff, like their flights were super early. We were super pushed on time. I wish we'd had more physicality in the deal we had with the Nemeth, but we were a little limited because we were tight on time. And I know what we shot was pretty good, but did we have all of the little pieces to bridge everything together? Is it going to tell a good story? Is it going to be okay? And speaking of the Lake of Reincarnation, I mean, I've also, we can almost say that, I retconned the Lake of Reincarnation in some way, going backwards. I think now we're going to have something that is called the Piscina of Dreams, which is, if you go in this pool, it's a little bit of a variation where you go in there and like your worst dreams become real life. And that is what happened to the system. That is what happened to Ryan Nemeth, because he was in that water for an amount of time. And we actually bombed the system with that water, and they had these crazy dreams. Right. So that's something new. And once again, something we discovered, after the whole system thing. That's kind of where that came to be. And we wanted to tell the story a little more in the match we had with the Nemeth, but we didn't get the chance to. The next time we do something, it's a great place to be able to have someone go there and dream, and the kids can get involved and they can do whatever. And it still it seems realistic to a degree. Like some superstar that could murder the children, they could actually be in a dream with them and they could be tortured, to a degree.
Very interesting. I want to wrap by asking you this question. I've never asked you this question. I don't know if you've ever been asked it by anyone before. What did Gilbert Hardy think about the Final Deletion?
Yeah, I mean, he was all in. I think at that time, he probably thought it was crazy. I'm sure he did. But he knew that we were doing some stuff, and like we were on TV and we were doing pretty well with it. So I think he was okay with it. Just once we first won him over in pro wrestling, that was the hard job. Just winning him over was a true challenge. And once we did, he was like our biggest fan for life. And he was our biggest fan until his final day. So we're very grateful that he was so supportive of us eventually.
I just can't imagine him sitting back watching this thing and having a clue of what he was watching.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. he didn't. It was certainly not his cup of tea, so to say.
That's funny. Anything else you want to add about this?
No, man, it was fun to look back, especially. It's crazy. It's wild. It's been 9 years,
You still get a lot of people asking you at appearances about the Final Deletion?
Yeah, I mean, it's still asked about quite a lot. I mean, there's still so many people who say, "Oh my God, my favorite match of yours was the Final Deletion." It's wild how much I hear that. I mean, I'll be honest. Probably what I hear more from anyone when they talk about, their favorite match of ours. What do you think the top? I'd say the top three are. John, take a guess at what fans. Whenever we're gone.
You and Jeff.
Yes, with Jeff and I.
TLC 2.
Yep.
The Final Deletion, and maybe the WrestleMania match, the singles match.
A lot of people do like that. The tag team ladder match with Edge and Christian.
Okay,
yeah,
sure. Okay.
Those are probably the top three I hear. And then also on top of that, I do hear about the WrestleMania match that we had. And a lot of people say, like, I remember when you first won the titles and you beat the APA. That match has a lot of people remember that as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely say TLC 2. I would say Final Deletion. And yeah, I mean, the tag team ladder match makes a lot of sense for people. I feel like just because of all the craziness, the tag team ladder match, for as innovative as important as it was,
Yeah.
it probably gets lost behind a lot of the TLC stuff.
Right.
Because of how much that overshadows it in terms of the craziness. But
Right.
the ladder match walked so the TLC matches could run.
It did. And also too, a moment that is we are asked about constantly all the time. So many people say, oh my God, I remember where I was whenever you guys returned at WrestleMania 33. That's also a moment that people treasure.
Yeah.
Quite
I mean,
greatly.
it's one of the greatest WWE moments ever. It's and that's not bias or exaggerate. I mean, they called it the number 2 greatest WrestleMania return ever. And it's one of the greatest WrestleMania moments, period. It's one of the biggest pops in WWE history. So of course that's going to be up there. As it should be. Not hyperbole, even if Broken Matt was perhaps full of a little bit of hyperbole. So not hyperbolic to suggest if you get in front of advertisewithhardy.com, you're going to get your business out in front of thousands of listeners every single week here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Promote your business to the extreme. Advertisewithhardy.com. And as mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, come on out to Kowloon, HardyBoysLive.com, August 10th, just outside of Boston for some great Chinese food. Hardy Boys signing, Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, Jeff Hardy concert. Going to be a great time, and they're going to be in Lewiston, Maine the night before. LimitlessWrestling.com for those tickets. Whew. I guess I'll be seeing you in the coming days, Matt Hardy, because I didn't even realize that. So
I will be all over New York. I just realized it a day or so ago.
Okay. All right. Well, we will rendezvous on that. Anything you'd want to add to the Die Hardys before we sign off?
Nope. Looking forward to seeing all the Die Hardys in Pittsburgh this weekend. It's going to be a blast. Friday night, Saturday night, and there's a new TNA's doing something really unique. I know they have like a record number of subscribers to the TNA Plus site that they have their streaming service, which is very cool. But they just introduced a new free tier, and there's a lot of interesting stuff on that. If you listen to this podcast regularly, and if you never had the opportunity to check out TNA or follow TNA, it'd be a great chance. Go sign up for free and see what TNA is all about. I think you'll enjoy it.
The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Die!
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105. Or get yourself a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.